Hooray for Hollywood. La da 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 da. Hollywood. Here we are in my director's chair. Look at that. Isn't it a special thing? I'll come a wee bit closer to ya so we feel close to one another. Look at me. Another Earth rotation older. So they tell me. Yeah, I got a little Hollywood vibe going on here. I've just come from my makeup trailer, you know. Obviously, just trying to get the right lighting on me here. It's a little hard. Actually, for real though, it's a little tricky to get this lighting. This extremely highly desirable Hollywood hairstyle I'm going for here. They call this the unemployed hermit. It's very, very hip right now. It's extremely en vogue. Super in style. So my mom had this huge collection of director's chairs from back when she had her shop. And I love them, and I felt so cool that we owned all these director's chairs. Sadly, they all need a good sanding. Everything needs work. Including my face. Just kidding, that doesn't need work. Don't get plastic surgery, it's stupid. But yeah, just wearing my silky robe here, because it's like, just came from my trailer, getting my makeup done for the day, for this movie shoot. I'm going to dive in. Today's piece is a short story. I guess you could call it part historical nonfiction, part kind of pertaining to actual nonfiction of today, part fiction. Just, it's all wrapped up together. It's all a bundle of things. But yes, wasn't quite sure what to do today, what sort of mood I was in. You know, I come down real hard from those party celebrations. Like, yesterday my birthday was the most fun I've had in a long minute. And today I feel like I'm crashing a little. Like, oh wait, let's go back to the fun. Can we? Can we do that again? So I wasn't really sure where my head was at. And I decided, you know, everyone else is acting like the pandemic is totally over. I know it's not. But I may as well read this now while it's relevant, and hopefully it becomes irrelevant and gone very soon. But it sure ain't gone yet. So I wrote this. This is freaking me out too. I guess I'm gonna say about a year ago, almost a year ago, like June-ish of last year. And that seems so vortexy and strange that was a year. Like, no, my dear, that's wrong. That can't be right. Cannot be accurate. But it is, and it's weird. So strange. So I wrote this for a writing club that I was on, that I left, and I'm not prepared to talk about the details of that. It was quite painful for me. I'm still having nightmares about it, but left this writing club, still feel sad about it. Weird times. Times are touchy. Things are odd. But I was proud of some of the work that I put out in there, and I'll just leave you hanging in total mystery about why I left it, because it was weird. But I was proud of this one, and I'll just read it to you. It's just dabbling in all sorts of what's happening now, and what happened then, and then is now and then, and the past repeats itself, and yabba-dip-habba-dip-hoo, and never the twain shall meet, but they do meet, and they meet on a dark and dusky road, on a dreary night. Just giving you a little Hollywood build-up. But yes, here I am. I wish I was off making movies. I wish I felt brave enough to get out there and be exchanging guffaws with the bigwigs who have the money and get you the ability to make your dreams come true. But I'm still doing what I'm doing, which is this, now, here, day 128. And it feels great. I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm giving you creative stuff every single day of the week. 8 days a week, baby. So here's my little short story for today, some creative writing. This piece is called the second wave. Luce patted the sweat from her brow, barelessly. Let's start again. Cut. Where's my clapboard? It's downstairs. We're gonna cut that. We're gonna take it again from the top. This piece is called The Second Wave. Talking, talking, talking. Lips, teeth, tip of tongue. K. Luce patted the sweat from her brow, barely noticing the heat or anything within her cells past her desire for Jupe. She tugged on her garter nervously, feeling it twisted from walking, and could scarcely straighten it in the massive crowd, pressed next to Americans, fellow French citizens, and a sea of other nationalities she could never possibly name. A little boy near her carefully withdrew peanuts from a brown paper sack. He looked at them with love, savoring each one like he could lose them at any moment. Such a look of enjoyment circled her thoughts back again to her mounting, unbearable desire. It had been 4 agonizing months since Jupe marched into a never-ending battle in the Argonne Forest with the 369th Infantry Regiment. A Lebel rifle over his shoulder, just like the one her papa taught her to fire as a girl. That memory seemed to belong to someone else. It was so far away and separated by so much pain. Even standing on tiptoe in her badly scuffed heels, she could barely see Jupe, his glistening, jutting jaw muscles releasing beads of sweat down the length of his beautiful, shimmering trumpet. She closed her eyes in the swaying, hypnotized crowd and remembered that mouth all over her goosebumps, enrapturing her senses and making her forget all loss. All the forceful, unrelenting weight of living in such times. The streets of Paris pulsed like a vein fresh off the battlefield. The adrenaline, hope, desperation, fear, and frailty mixed together in a stew of human uncertainty. It was beautiful and altogether dizzying in its way, but also nauseating and thick, like invisible fog clouds wrapped around every man, woman, and child. The impatience was making her skin itch. Braving the obvious risks of the deadly and intensifying flu, Luce decided immediately to push through the crowd to get closer. She clawed her way forward, undaunted by the muscles of soldiers, the screams of children, or the sticky, sweat-drenched arms she squeezed between. The music swelled as the Harlem Hellfighters band played How You Gonna Keep 'Em Down on the Farm. Luce knew this song was about how much more welcomed the black soldiers felt in Paris than back home in America. She looked behind her and saw hope on the faces of her fellow Parisians for the first time in ages. Jupe still hadn't noticed her. Improvising, she pulled a red handkerchief from her tiny purse and waved it in his direction, flailing wildly so as to be the swiftest moving object in the crowd. It worked! He looked up from his trumpet, and the look on his face was more nourishing, soul-revitalizing, and full of adoration than anything she had ever felt from her family. Perhaps her son, Theobald, had looked at her with such love, but that was before the flu took him. He slipped away so quickly it was like the angels were in a hurry to have him. She felt the wet tears on her face and waited for the concert to end when she could at last feel the warmth only Jupe's cheek could emanate. Finally, the moment came, and it seemed like the world slowed as Jupe climbed carefully off the makeshift bandstand toward her. It was lucky that he was so close to their band leader, James Europe, otherwise he'd never be able to steal away. Since Europe had been badly injured at Maffrecourt and deemed unfit for battle, he'd lightened up on the stricture and rules in regards to the infantry. Jupe was one of his favorites, so he turned the other way for the night. There was plenty of time for Jupe and the others to continue staring death in the face. As slow as time moved for Jupe to reach her, the moment his hand grabbed Luce's, everything sped up like a carnival, a child had been waiting for all year. Luce led him, wordless, but with so much spoken between their souls, to her friend Delphine's small flat. Delphine and Luce were working at the same BMC when Jupe and some of his infantrymen snuck away from camp, the infamous red lanterns beckoning them away from the stench of death and the continual racket of Jack Johnson explosions. The American men were forbidden by the sergeants to enter brothels. They were, in fact, required to report any sexual relations within 3 hours, and if they got sick from the prolific spread of syphilis, they could be docked half their pay. The lines became ever so blurred in war, however, and the boys from Harlem simply weren't monitored as closely because they stayed together and looked out for their own. It was one of the white boys from Iowa who first snuck a group out to seek the Red Lanterns, and from there it was a wave of lust and escapism. On the other hand, what Jupe found beyond the cherry glow of that lantern swaying over a purple door was so much more. When Jupe entered the brothel nervously that March, he was the 30th client Luce had seen that day. Gesundheit. Her body barely felt familiar to her anymore. Each man was a collection of smells and grunts, nothing more. They liked her because she had great big eyes and she spoke fluent English. She'd learned 3 languages long ago during what seemed like another lifetime. Her family actually had great wealth for a short time at least. Her grandfather, Florimond, had invested a large sum of money in art collecting, and it paid off throughout the happy days of her childhood. Being the only child of Florimond's favorite son, Luce was sent to the Paris Opera Ballet School, where she dazzled her family in her performance of the Firebird. Luce's father, Edgard, was less than impressed. He never seemed to notice her. Edgard was an impulsive man, always betting on horses and drinking his money away. Just 1 week before the horrible flood of Paris, when the Seine took over the city like a heartless enemy, Florimond took a trip to Vienna to put a bid on some paintings. He put Edgard in charge of his small but prolific gallery, and as was Edgard's usual response, he took the opportunity to drink himself into a stupor. When the floodwaters hit, he was nursing the last sips of his cognac from off of an oak bar top, and scarcely knew what was happening. The art in the gallery was completely destroyed, as was Edgard's dignity and the respect of his father. They lost everything. Luce expected to receive some sympathy from her grandpère, but there was no such mercy. Her family was forced into a shack on her uncle Etienne's farm. Etienne shared Edgard's passion for drink, and also a passion for Leonie, Edgard's wife, and Etienne's only sister. Instead of defending his wife and the mother of his child, Edgard left them both, and that's when Luce first started using her femininity to survive. By the time the war was in full swing in France, Luce had lost her mother and her son to the first wave of Spanish flu. She continued working. What else was she to do? The military campaign brothels were slightly more pleasant than what she'd been accustomed to, the dingy hovels infested with rats, covered by squatty ceilings that leaked. The military at least did some medical testing and provided minimal cleaning supplies. It was still just another kind of war, though. Luce's insides suffered a barrage of punishment, and there were many days she wished one of the muscular men on top of her would just crush her or choke her, or light her body on fire for kicks. She actually fantasized about these escapes. The moment Jupe pulled back her tattered magenta curtain, she knew he was different. He looked down, already apologizing with his eyes for being there, for his carnal drive, for the things he knew had happened to her on a successive repetition he could only imagine. Their eyes met, and for just a moment, there was no war. No impending illness, no blood-drenched muddy streets or invasions. There was only the sudden illumination created by their souls. Forgetting her required etiquette momentarily, Luce stammered, "What would you like? What do you wish me to do first?" Jupe smiled, unable to contain his boyish fascination with her beauty. He tripped over every word, holding his cap in his hand like an old stuffed bear from his youth, wringing it in his fingers, trying to find the courage to respond. "Well, ma'am," he stumbled, "I'd very much like if we could just talk a little first. I mean, if that's okay. I've been selling rolled cigs to the boys and making some decent scratch that way. I can pay for the talking part, too, is what I'm saying. I'd like to..." "Talk?" She playfully finished his thought. Yes'm, if you're all right with that. Am I just beating up my gums here? I'm sorry." He shook his head, feeling foolish. "Beating up gums?" Luce giggled, her cheeks as pink as peonies. She gazed at him, and for the first time in a year she felt something other than pain. "What is this? Gum beating? Is that what you like? No, no, Jupe laughed, forgetting how different their worlds were, explaining, that's just Harlem spit for talking in circles, spinning your wheels, but getting nowhere, blabbing, blabbing. He made the motion with his hands like a shadow puppet, talking, emphasizing the example with blah, blah, blah. Luce giggled herself onto the bed, bent at the waist with delight. Yes, she gasped for breath. Oui, I know. Blah, I know this blab. That's not you, though. I like the way you speak. This ma'am, I like this. I would love to talk with you. Please. They talked for hours, and miraculously, no one disturbed them. It was a slow night, and even the explosions seemed to tone down to create the mood. Jupe told her about his name. He was named after Jupiter Hammond, a black poet and slave until his death. Jupe's mother, Fay, had found his writing when another waitress at the diner she worked at slipped it in her bag. The other waitress, Judy, was white and attending Syracuse University. She was hustling eggs and bacon to get extra money for fun and sweaters and new loafers to go back to school with. Fay was working there to support her first son. Her first son, Abraham, and keep the lights on in her cockroach-riddled tenement. Abraham would later die with a body stuffed full of so many narcotics he must have floated right to the angels, at least according to Fay. Before that, when their father, Joseph, was still somewhat involved, Fay read the poetry of Jupiter to him, and then found out a week later she was pregnant again. Joseph loved the name, but he later loved a supermarket clerk named Tess much, much more, and ran away to New Jersey with her. By the time his brother died, Jupe got his mind set to getting strong. That's it, one goal, strength, and golly did he achieve it. He didn't go to school, he just ran. He ran through all of New York until it felt like his lungs would bleed. He ran when there wasn't food. He ran when his mother picked up the bottle again, and he ran until he forgot everything he knew about himself. When he heard about the demand for soldiers to fight in Europe, it seemed the only purposeful calling to pass his way, ever. The very next time I would feel like I belonged anywhere wouldn't be until this moment right here, he articulated. Luce smiled. Would you like for me to make you feel even more? She asked, really flirting for the first time since her youthful days of dancing and lightness. Well, yes, I would very much. Jupe searched for words. I certainly would be very happy for that, but you see, I've never done that before. Luce was amazed. He was so handsome and strong. His eyes were like lanterns. His skin was nothing short of perfect, and his lips were begging for her kiss. I'll be your commanding officer, oui? Luce invited him nearer. Their bodies disappeared from the war zone and into a lagoon of soft blue, a field of green growing possibility, a world neither of them had ever explored, a world of comfort. This wasn't supposed to happen. This wasn't allowed to happen, but it did, and they were in love. Now, 4 months and so many deaths later, they sat safe for a moment in Delphine's well-decorated flat. She'd met a rich banker, and he was putting her up to be available for him whenever he wanted, when he could sneak away from his wife. The two of them had made a quick escape to his summer home for a week. Delphine trusted no one more than Luce, who had helped her when she became pregnant by a soldier. Luce took her somewhere she had gone as a young girl, and the pregnancy was nothing more than a fading memory now. Delphine owed Luce everything she had gained since then, because she met her banker shortly after Luce had shown her how to handle such unexpected circumstances. Delphine had left red wine and some figs on a small table. Jupe watched her open the wine as the moon danced its glow upon her thin pink dress. He noticed a small hole at the bottom near the knee. Without thinking, he reached his finger into the tiny tear. Luce turned and laughed. It's the best dress I have. It's more lovely than anything in the magazines. He poured his words over her like fresh water. I didn't mean to poke you, Luce. I just need to feel every part of you, everything near you. I have to touch it until it's you I'm touching. She brushed her fingers lightly over his shoulders. His soul had changed. She could feel it. The battle near the Champagne region had been brutal in ways she could never fathom. Many of the men were in combat for over 191 days. Jupe was lucky to have been injured badly enough for a slight reprieve. When he healed a massive shrapnel wound in his chest, he became close to James Europe, and that was the miracle that led him back to Paris, back to his love. Soon he would be called upon again to join the Hellfighters in the Meuse-Argonne offense, and his efforts would help to end the war. This would come after the bloodshed of nightmares and the eradication of many of his friends' lives. That would come later. In this moment, Luce looked like a brilliant painting lit by candlelight, hung in the great hall of a king, surrounded by the best velvet curtains money could buy. Her beauty was larger than the war, larger than the second wave of the flu, larger than all the hate and sickness and sadness in the world. She reached out and fed him a fig with her delicate angel fingers. "S'il te plaît, monsieur?" she hummed. "Do you like it?" "So much," he said, practically in tears. "More than maybe anything I ever tasted. I know I've mostly been eating Gippo and axle grease, but that tastes like dreams. I've been afraid to let myself dream, and springtime before all this mess tastes like loving you, like the most perfect thing possible." She wrapped her hands around his neck, so grounding and powerful. She inhaled his careful and steady breath, and she felt like she'd never been tossed around, never been anyone's rag doll or punching bag, like she was just a woman who was loved deeply. She kissed his eyelids, so warm and anticipating her every movement. Then she lowered her weight onto his lap and allowed herself the fullness of being alive for the first time since her son's death. She shivered and savored the cinnamon scent of Jupe, warmer than the summer heat. "It doesn't matter if we die, Jupe. It doesn't matter because we feel this. We were given this." Her eyes filled with tears, and she kissed him with all of herself, gasping from the unfamiliar soothing waves. She reached for his belt and... "Cut!" yelled Ori, the director. "Sorry, folks. Sorry. We gotta cut. It's important. Let's bring it in, okay? Everybody come close. I just got a big announcement on my headset. I'm really sorry, you guys. Just stop what you're doing and come down to set, alright?" "Are you fucking joking, Ori?" screamed Daphne. "I'm sorry, is it April fucking Fools already? 'Cause I think it's still March. But, see, you have to be joking because we've been trying to nail that scene for a week and I just had it. I just fucking had it. You told me yesterday, Luce needs to be so excited to fuck Jupe in this scene that she literally sobs about it and the audience can feel her pussy pulsating. Well, I did that, Ori. I just the fuck now did that. Here, right here for you now. I'm sobbing, my pussy is pulsating, and you cut?" Daphne was clearly hysterical. "It's not about that, Daph," assured Ori. "It's not about you at all. I'm sorry, sweetie. It's really important, honest. You think I'd cut on gold like that if it wasn't? Come on, darling. Just come on down here and I'll explain." "Explain to this," she shouted, showcasing her middle finger presentationally. "You can explain to my pulsating pussy. I'll be in my trailer." She stormed off. Ori put this head in his hands. Ori put his head in his hands, completely overwhelmed and flustered. "Hey, West," he yelled to the confused-looking actor playing Jupe. "Hey, man, do you think you could try to bring her back in here? This truly is serious." This truly is serious, man. I would not stop rolling on a phenomenal scene like that if it wasn't absolutely necessary. I swear. You know that, right? I mean, can you help me out, please?" West walked down to the director begrudgingly. He was always fixing other people's problems. He whispered so only Ori could hear. "She's having a really bad period again, or she was charged up all day like that electric fence in Jurassic Park, bro. She's having a really tough time, and this scene means a lot to her. She's been working on it at home every night. But, yeah, man, she's also got, like, cystic ovaries or some shit, like, something awful like that, and she said it was bad today, so I don't know if you're gonna get her out of that trailer anytime soon." Ori nodded, understanding well enough, but completely at a loss as to what his next move should be. The rest of the cast and crew had gathered near him suddenly. It spooked him a bit, even though he'd asked them to do so. "Okay, everybody," he began, shaky and ill-prepared. So this is some of the craziest shit I've ever had to inform my team about, and I've been doing this for 23 years. There's really not an easy way to go about this or make it sting any less. I know we've all been working so hard on this film. I'm so confident in this amazing team. I'm stunned right now because this thing is shaping up to be the best movie I've ever made. So that's why it's so difficult to tell you all. He looked out at their faces, each one more confused and twisted up than the last. He swallowed awkwardly, feeling that each word weighed a solid ton. To tell you all, to inform you that we have to halt production because of this COVID-19 madness, this virus, this sudden fucking insane thing. We're being instructed by the studio to wrap up today and put the entire production on hold. Indefinitely. Audible gasps came from the group. Women and men alike started crying. I can't say how sorry I am that this is happening, Ori fumbled for cohesive understanding or a foothold. I am just as shocked as the rest of you. I don't think any of us believed it would get to this level. Obviously, we're in a unique position right now. He began chuckling somewhat uncontrollably. Sorry, I apologize. It's just, this thing is my baby. I've been grinding my gears to get this thing made for 10 years, and here we are, and it's about the Spanish fucking flu. He paused, overcome by the whole thing, then continued very solemnly. The whole thing is about these brave men and women in this silent war within the bigger war and all the lives lost and the love that survived all that. It's about a virus, but it's more so about love. I don't really know what I'm saying right now. Forgive me for that, but I hope you sort of hear me. It's about love. I was talking to my wife this morning about something in wardrobe. It was about this little bit of fringe on Luce's costume, about whether or not the character was too poor to have this little bit of purple fringe, and would it distract from her look, and so on. There was no way either of us could have known at that time that it would be the last normal conversation we would have. For a while, anyway. Who knows? He looked off, almost forgetting where he was for a moment, then returning as half himself. So that's it for now, friends, he continued sadly. Thank you for all you've done to make this magic happen. Thank you for putting up with me. Go home, get some food on the way, maybe a lot of food. Get some booze if you need to, but go home and tell your families you love them and keep showing them that and telling them that every day. Even when they're annoyed with you or they turn the music up to drown you out, just keep telling them. I'll be in touch. Thank you. Thank you with all my heart. He slumped away, practically vanishing from the set like a fog. Like that cloud of fog surrounding the crowd in the film. It slipped him right off the lot into his Tesla and away into the night. West was one of the last people left on the set. He gathered up his things, a few other scripts he'd been considering, and his father's bomber jacket. With the heaviest energy, he made his way to Daphne's trailer. Then with the most reluctant hand, he knocked. Knock. Knock. Daph? It's me, West. Please let me in. There was a long, quiet moment, then she opened the door, her face still soaked with tears. So what's the big fucking headline, huh? She humphed like a child. What was so huge that he had to pulverize that scene? He smiled, a sort of there smile. Sit down, babe, he said with all the comfort he could muster. She listened because he was one of the only people she'd ever listened to. Like so many co-stars before them, they were dating. Most of the crew knew, though they tried to hide it to keep things smooth, uninterrupted, professional. Now none of that mattered. Baby, that coronavirus thing has escalated quickly. It's a full-blown goddamn pandemic. The entire production is being put on hold. Pretty much all productions are. I'm so sorry. I know this role was just everything to you. Not everything, she added, acknowledging that he was very much a part of her everything. Well, he went on, I know it meant a great deal to you. I know you were practically doing a French accent in your sleep. I know you loved this script. We're not alone, though, okay? Really. Daphne rubbed her face hard in disbelief. shut down, just squashed, no more, that's it, red light, done? For now, babe, he answered. For now, yes. What the fuck are we gonna do? I just put a bid on that place in Palmdale. I just got a car. Everything I've been doing has been banking on the success of this movie. Ori was so confident in it. The studio was excited to push it forward. Now it's just over? She cried hard. Maybe not, sugar. Maybe not over. Maybe just in a stasis of undetermined outcome. Daphne giggled. You're a nut. But you're my nut. I guess everything's going to be different now. Well, West started, thinking about it for a second. People will act like zombies and be pushy at stores and may try to kill you at every turn. So not that different. He smiled, amazed by her beauty, adding, you should keep in mind that almost everybody you talk to from now on will be drunk. People who seem very pleasant at first might suddenly swing at you for no reason at all. So do keep that in mind. She pinched his arm playfully. Will you be my lockdown buddy? Will you make me bagels and sing to me? He thought for a moment. Only if I get lots of pulsating pussy in return. I'm talking like the world could end at any fucking moment, pulsating pussy. All you can eat, she jabbed. And you can even pick the first 5 movies we watch. Deal. He sealed the arrangement, kissing her sweetly. Let's get out of here, my moody French whore. She smiled. Sure thing, you sweet talker, you. They flicked the lights off in the trailer. Daphne forgot her favorite cardigan. She wouldn't go back for it anytime soon. Fin. The end. I should have practiced my French accent. I was sort of in and out there. I can do a pretty good one, but I wasn't really prepared. I wrote this right at the beginning of the pandemic. It's so crazy. So crazy. That was a whole year ago. And the prompt, there was like prompts for these writing assignments. I can't remember. One of them was like, it's very hot in this one. Something about it being very hot. And then one of them was like, open to page something or other of a book and use a line from that page. And so I got a really good one. It was, I think, from Hunter Thompson, Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail. And it was you should keep in mind that almost everybody you talk to from now on will be drunk. People who seem very pleasant at first might suddenly swing at you for no reason at all. So keep that in mind. So just got to give credit where credit's due. That was part of the assignment, part of the writing prompt was to include a random line from a given page number from a book. So that was mine. I got a really cool one, and it fit in very well, because I think that is probably what happened in LA, in Hollywood, in the studio system for the first few months of the pandemic. So hey, how about it? A little creative writing, a little bit of different sort of story. Yeah. I hope that you were totally caught off guard by that huge plot twist. There we were, in the Spanish flu, and Luce and Jupe are about to bone. And you're totally invested, right? And you love their relationship. And then cut! The director yells cut. I thought that was kind of cool. I liked how it... But yeah, it is really crazy that the last time this kind of happened on this scale was the Spanish flu. And holy cow, here we are again. Experiencing this global cray-cray. Global cray-cray. So hey, yeah, little taste. I'm so glad that I bought these lights for my mom's friend, because they look so official and Hollywoody and like, yeah, where's my trailer? Come and get me out of it. I'm so ready. Throw me in the frickin' game, coach. But yeah, there's just my little imagining. A lot of it was factual. I did a lot of that research about the Argonne Forest and the 369th Infantry. Yeah, a lot of that was accurate. That concert was a real concert that the Harlem Hellfighters played. How You Gonna Keep Them Down on the Farm, about the way they were being treated in the war when they were there, like risking their lives and still being treated horribly. The battle at Mafrecourt. Yeah, researched a lot of that. Was real stuff going down. And then I just wove it together in the way that everything is connected and repeats itself, and for Pete's sake. So, hey, how about it? Tomorrow's day 129 and it'll be fine. We'll do some more poetry right from my mind. Whoa. So, I'm going to go back to filming this big budget Hollywood thriller now. I'm going to do some of my own stunts, and it'll be great. So, see, I can do so many stunts. Plie. Taking that sweet ass director's chair. Woo! You're gonna give me some money. I'll make you a movie. I'll make you a good one. Got a director's chair right here. So thanks for joining me. Day 128. And thanks for eating off of my plate of create of what I like to create. And we'll do some more tomorrow. Okay. Cut.